Hey everybody, Mike Shoesmith here. This is a story out of CNN.com on the recent revelations about what's been going on with the VA and the waiting lists and the secret waiting lists and the thousands of veterans who have been forced to wait months to see a doctor. This is what CNN is saying. At least 40 U.S. veterans died waiting for appointments at the Phoenix Veterans Affairs healthcare system, many of whom were placed on a secret waiting list. The secret list was part of a elaborate scheme designed by Veterans Affairs managers in Phoenix who were trying to hide that 1,400 to 1,600 sick veterans were forced to wait months to see a doctor, according to a recently retired top VA doctor and several high-level sources. For 6 months, CNN has been reporting The new revelations about the Phoenix VA are perhaps the most disturbing and striking to come to light so far. But listen, folks, I don't know why anyone is surprised by this. Obama feigns surprise, though he's known about it the entire time. In fact, it was his election mission to end these sorts of things at the VA, to end the long waits, et cetera, et cetera. The VA, their medical system is socialized medicine. Okay. Now, I want you guys to look at other countries which have socialized medicine. Let's start with BBC. This is the BBC's website. This is not this is a mainline website. I'm just trying to focus in on it here a little bit. I'm not sure if you guys can read this or not. Okay, we'll zoom in here a little bit. Anyway, hopefully you guys can read that. This is from the BBC, okay? Health, 500 heart patients die on waiting lists. This is from BBC News. Up to 500 heart patients die each year. 500 heart patients die each year while they wait for potentially life-saving surgery. A report has said, an editorial in the British Medical Association journal, Heart, said that the only way to prevent these deaths would be to perform the operations as soon as the heart condition was diagnosed. This is what happens in the private sector, it said, but NHS patients are often put on a waiting list because other pressures to health service resources. So this is rationed healthcare we're talking about here. This is the BBC reporting this. I want to read this to you again. An editorial in the British Medical Association, journal Heart, said the only way to prevent these deaths would be to perform the operations as soon as the heart condition was diagnosed. This is what happens in the private sector, it said. The British Medical Association admits that the private sector here is doing things properly. But NHS patients are often put on waiting lists because of other pressures to health service resources. Because when you have rationed health care, everybody doesn't get what they need. When you have single-payer health care like they have in Britain, in England rather, you have these sorts of problems. It's been going on for forever. I mean, this article is from 1999. And they are touting the private system, saying it's much better than the private system. This is the British Medical Association reporting this. So let's move on to Canada. Canada has single health payer, a single payer health system. This is from Winnipeg. Patients die waiting for surgery. This is from a city in Manitoba, Winnipeg, Manitoba. It says here, a dozen patients over the past 3 years have died waiting on a waiting list for cardiac surgery in Winnipeg, according to the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority. 5 died in 08, 09, 5 died, and 2 last year, according to information. So it says these patients were on a list and were waiting in the community because every medical assessment basically said that they were safe to wait. Well, of course it says that. It says that because it's rationed health care. So they do means testing as far as who can wait the longest, right? To be put to the back of the line. That's how rationed health care works. There's a line. Like we see lines when they're rationing. Imagine lines for rationing food. People get in line. The people at the end of the line get the last bit of food. That is rationed food. Socialized medicine is rationed healthcare. That's how that works. But let's look to the bigger picture here in Canada. This is the CBC. Let's go back to zoom in here. A typical Canadian seeking surgical or other therapeutic treatment had to wait 18 weeks in 2007. So the reason we're going back in time here is because this is a problem that has been reported on during the entire time we've had socialized medicine anywhere in the world. This is a common problem, which is why I'm saying, why is anyone surprised by this? A typical Canadian seeking surgical or other therapeutic treatment had to wait 18 weeks in 2007, an all-time high, according to new research published Monday by independent research organization, the Fraser Institute. Despite government promises and the billions of dollars, doesn't matter how much money you put into rationed health care, you still have a line, and because it's not privately funded, the line goes into one room. That's the government room. You see that, folks? Can you picture this in your mind? When the government supplies the health care, there's one line. If you're responsible for your own well-being, you can pick any line you want. I mean, there's multiple lines, and in a marketplace structured system, companies are vying for your medical needs, and it works. Capitalism works, folks, every time it's tried. And the reason insurance rates became so unaffordable is because if the government could do anything to help that, it would have to enact tort reform to put a halt to frivolous lawsuits which have been driving up the cost of insurance. If the government is responsible for anything, it's responsible for protecting that culture, the former culture of self-determination and independence, instead of relying on another person for a payday. Make your own money, earn your own way. And that system works every time it's tried. Despite government promises and the billions of dollars funneled into the Canadian healthcare system, the average patient waited more than 18 weeks in 2007. Despite the billions in Canada, with a country with only 30 million people in it, folks. They spend billions of dollars throwing money at this problem, and yet people are still waiting way too long, and people dying in this line to get health care. The survey measures median waiting times to document the extent which queues for visits to specialists and for diagnostic and surgical procedures are used to control healthcare expenditures. It's becoming clear that Canada's current healthcare system cannot meet the needs of Canadians in a timely and efficient manner unless you consider access to a waiting list timely and efficient. This problem with rationed healthcare, socialized medicine, is a known problem. And no one should be surprised when this problem surfaces with the VA, a socialized medical system, which has been going on for years. This didn't just happen last week. It was exposed recently, but this has been going on for a long time. And listen, folks, when we hear statements by people like Joe Biden and Harry Reid and others who are saying things which lead us to believe that the end game here with Obamacare is a single-payer system, you have to look at this and go, wait a minute. We have got to shut this down now before we forget what happened to not only the VA, but Britain and Canada and all the other socialized medical systems. They don't work. You put the government in charge of your body, in charge of your health, when all they're interested in is power and to keep you as ballot slaves. You understand that term, ballot slave? Your ballot becomes their property because, and by ballot, I mean your franchise, your voting franchise, every time there's an election becomes their property. They bought it by supplying you with health care. That is the goal here, folks. Don't fall for this. My name is Mike Shoesmith. You guys got to put an end to Obamacare now. Talk to you next time.